yourself again. But it's the only way you're ever gonna learn. You look back and it's all in the past. I'm dwelling on the thoughts I cannot say to you. If I don't say the words, then maybe it's not true. And it feels alright.
Good evening, welcome to NUFC Matters with me, Steve Wraith. As always, Wednesday nights, Geordie here, Geordie's there, and it's George, Mitch, Steve, and Stu who've joined us tonight. Albert is on his way. Steve is working late, so may or may not join us. But as always, an hour to chat about Newcastle United and what is in the headlines at St James's Park today. And it's off the pitch that we're making the headlines today. We'll start with that in a second. But don't forget, halfway through the show, you can ask George. I can see there's already one or two questions coming in. About 6:30, we'll ask George. He'll get those questions in, and I'll keep them to one side. So, George, Peter Silverstone is about to be, we're led to believe by the media, appointed as Chief Commercial Officer at St James's Park. Now, his history, for those who don't know, is that he spent 7 years in the same position at Arsenal. And by all accounts, has done a very, very good job there. He will be in charge of improving Newcastle's commercial revenues as they seek to compete with the world's best clubs and push back the boundaries of financial fair play. And of course, his arrival follows the appointments of Sporting Director Dan Ashworth and Chief Executive Darren Eales. Just as a little bit of homework on his time at the Gunners, they did conclude a sponsorship deal with Rwanda. They saw that e-commerce revenue streams rise considerably and expanded their corporate seating areas and, of course, partnered with Adidas. This was broken this morning in the Times, George, followed up by the Daily Mail. It's another off-field appointment, and it looks like a good one.
Well, if ever something was needed, you just need to say Castorian, and that's one of the reasons it's needed, I guess. What you can read about the bloke is he's obviously done a lot of good things in a good place, because first thing is the way Arsenal's run. I'm not talking about on the field as well. They're run very professionally. Whether you like the Americans or not, what they've been doing has been very professional. And that matches the professional way our owners have gone about things. They haven't appointed just the first man that come along or just any willy-nilly. They actually have gone and searched for somebody who's doing the job already. And I think that's a good thing. And I think if we take the approach, like I've heard you lads say yourselves before, trust the owners. They seem to know what they're doing well. I think this is another one where I'm happy to trust the owners, and he does seem to have a very, very good pedigree in a not easy place to do it, to be honest. Because as I say, Arsenal don't have a reputation for taking chances and just anybody. He'll have been well looked at before they appointed him. And I guess our lot will have looked at him even further before we appointed him. So good news as far as I'm concerned, and timely, as I say, with all the rubbish that people are suffering at the moment with some of the things that are happening in relation to merchandise just now. So, yeah, good appointment.
Mitch, do you agree with that?
I mean, Silverstone's obviously been on the circuit for a while.
Hey!
And it's there to get we're back on track. As long as the deals he makes on the pits. Anyway, seriously, look at you look at someone who's helped to oversee a significant commercial growth at Arsenal. And as my dad rightly says, Arsenal's a club that's run professionally. Interestingly, the Rwanda deal is the one that stands out to me, because that's got links to Emirates and their sister company, Donata, who do all the holidays and tourism. Yeah. And there's another man who has links in this region already, commercial links to this region. So if you want to see similar sponsorships to sort of Noon on the sleeve, if you want to be diving into the regional connections and stuff we've already talked about, those flexing those GCC links, we're actually getting somebody in who's already been there and done it, because there's no doubt he's worked with Emirates closely for a long time. So he'll have a lot of good links into this region, which is what we need. Because we're not just talking about growing in the UK, we're talking about growing globally, and of course growing throughout the Gulf. And so, sensible appointment. I think we can't be unhappy with it. Things really are coming together now, and it does seem like it's been a little bit like dominoes. Once you get one in place, that falls, another one falls, and another one falls. And I think this is exactly where we're headed. So yeah, trust the owners, trust the process. They've got the right person in for me.
Al-Walid, I'm not sure you've seen the news about Newcastle's next off-field appointment, but it's another step in the right direction. I think we're all agreed on that. You are on mute, by the way, before you start talking.
You mean Peter Silver?
Yes.
Peter? Yeah, of course, it's continue for signing, and the management, the signing, they care about the players and also care about management positions, not like old days with Lee Charney do everything. There is a man for every job, and this is continue for great work for Newcastle. And actually, I didn't know the guy, but of course, he picked for a reason, and of course, he's the best one for the job.
Steve, your thoughts on the new appointment?
Yeah, well, I think Darren Eales has been relatively quiet, although I think he's on Radio Newcastle tonight, isn't he? After we've finished, but I'm sure in the time he's been in, he's had a good look around and seen what mess we're in from what's been left of the last 14 years, and said, right, we need this sort of character in to start putting teams together. You know, Darren Eales was never going to do it on his own, and obviously he came in, and the story is that there was 4 people in the commercial department. It needed more than 5, and very quickly more than 5. So it's about building a management team, and the best thing to do is to get your right hand man in, or your number 2 as somebody who's has been there, got the T-shirt, and you know, from I don't know an awful lot about him, but what I've heard here, and you know, he's got the pedigree, and it's definitely part of what I'm sure will be something that you know, growing that team will be critical in the way that we go ahead. The only thing now is EPL will probably bring in some FFP of how much you can spend on salaries for management staff if they're going to try and stop us growing. So watch this space for that one.
It's a good point. We've talked many times on the show, Stu, about building foundations not on sand but on concrete, and it's another building block on the tower block that the new owners are building to success.
Yeah, just to carry on from Mitch's things, and this wasn't synchronized. I wrote different things down to what Mitch has just said, but I think he's been brought in to help us get into pole position. He's a slick businessman, and it's the right formula from the team to bring him in. But it is, thank you very much. It is he's got no checking past either. But it is
that just sounds like a lot of chicanery to me.
And I just hatched that one up. Right, but it is an astute signing, and it goes back to what Maida tweeted a few months back when he was talking about building skyscrapers. You've got to get the foundations in place, and this signing, it gives us the feel that we are now a proper club run by proper professionals, and if we want for the better phrase or repeating a phrase, it's the square peg in round holes, is that we've got the right pegs in the right holes this time. And it's I think they've done it very similar to player recruitment. They haven't just went gung-ho like a lot of people thought we would. Outsiders thought we would, to be fair, when we first got taken over. Oh, they're just going to buy Mbappe, Neymar, etc. You know, it's been calculated, it's been careful, it's been considerate, and they don't mind waiting to get the right person. And you know, if you look at Botman, that proved that. There's been other signings where they've persevered and waited, and then managed to get the right person. So there's no mistake there. Peter Silverstone, he's got a good track record. That wasn't meant to be a pun, but he's proven in the on the circuit. but what he is, he brings experience, and the way football basically blossomed over the last ballooned in the last 20 years. He's got that experience at a club bigger than us, but he's also now got owners who are prepared to spend the same. They're not as frugal as the past owner who wouldn't have even considered recruiting them. And as Steve said, they had little Penfold doing everything, didn't they? You know, wash the dishes, the lot. So now they've got the right director of football, they've got the right sporting director, they've got the CFO, CEO, and they've got a forward-thinking board. And it does, just to reiterate, it gives the feeling that we are a proper football club, we're an actual business, and we're going places, and it's just marvellous to see and to be part of.
Yeah, it is. So George is busy tonight. George, I'll stick you on mute until I see you come off your phone. Getting back to other stuff off the pitch, and the name change. It's starting to rear its head again. And Tom Dixon posted early on that the owners are consulting fans over a potential St. James's Park name change. He thinks it's refreshing. Wants to know what our thoughts are. And there was also a comment from Trolls who said, since the name change is to battle financial fair play, we seriously need to consider the name change, in my opinion. So, George, what's your take on, the name change idea? Because it did cause some debate when Mike Ashley was in charge, but he didn't give us much choice, did he? He just went ahead and did it.
No, when you've got a place that's so hallowed to the fans as St. James's Park, the cathedral on the hill, as people call it nowadays, and you take a set of crowbars to lever the name off at 6 o'clock in the morning, so nobody will know. How did he expect fans to react? If he'd gone along and did it the right way, like he should have done lots of things, and said, "Look, I've got the chance to get 10 million if I call this such and such St. James's Park, or even Sports Direct St. James's Park," and said that I've got 10, 12 million to spend here, there, everywhere, I think people would listen. But to do it the way he did it, he couldn't possibly win. Because by then, people had made their minds up that whatever name he put on that wall, as soon as he went away, they would get the crowbars out and lever it off again. So, a disaster. If they've got a proposal that makes sense, and somebody's already said it in a way that if this is going to help our financial system, then let's have a look at it. Don't dismiss it out of hand. But if we could get the sort of money that Arsenal get for their ground being the Emirates Stadium, well, I'm not going to be too upset. If they can find a way of incorporating St. James's Park into the name as well, so be it. Fantastic. But I'm not going to dismiss it out of hand, because I think that would be just as daft as Ashley was. But the reason he got the reaction was that when you do that sort of thing, take crowbars to names at 6 o'clock in the morning and think that you're being sly. Well, all you're doing is being stupid, actually. And it was inevitable people would resent it, and not surprising. So yeah, let's talk about it sensibly. And if there's a way of letting the fans have a say, well, let's have a say. Let's talk about it, but not to do it on the hoof like was tried before.
Mitch, it's something which, did cause a lot of anger, and your dad's already said why. But it seems as if most fans, as long as St. James's Park is, incorporated in any new name of the stadium, will be quite happy.
We've talked about this on these shows and in other platforms for a number of years. The issue with the so-called showcase that was actually at this stage was not about what was being done, it was the how. The fact it was done on an international break, so they had 2 weeks to let everything calm down. And it was done at the same time as the sack shooting. It was just a proper thumb in the nose at the fan base and felt like an attack. It's a delicate proposition, but at the same time, I think everybody now understands how difficult FFP is being made for us to accelerate. And that we're playing against a loaded table. So anything that can ease that, anything that can legitimately get us around certain hurdles in a legitimate and upfront way has got to be considered. Any renaming must be done with empathy, with sympathy, and with respect. If it's done with all of that, and people feel like they're consulted, this is what's something we've talked about before when Steve Acey and I used to do some of the NUFC going at NUST road shows. When you go out and reach out to Newcastle fans, the one thing they want to feel like is that their point of view has been heard. And even if they disagree with what you're doing, 9 times out of 10, they will have total respect for you if you sit down with them and say, this is why we're doing it, and this is what we want to do. Hear what you're saying, I take it on board, but this is why we're not going to do it that way. And that it's finding different ways to reach out. Yes, the trust has to be involved, but the trust only speak for their membership, and that's doesn't speak for the entire fan base. For example, we need to find ways to have the town forum style for all season ticket holders. For example, they're all effectively stakeholders in the club, and get the input from as many different groups and as many different people as you can to say what they would like to get out of a renaming process. It does seem to be just taking a straw poll and finger in the wind sort of look at how the reaction's been on social media today, is that as long as St James's Park is incorporated into it, I think a lot of people will be receptive to it. So there's always already a big clue about the way forward. I think Darren Eales will be part of this, the big part of this. One of the first things he said when he came in was about going out and reaching out to fans and listening to fans and trying to look at it from a fan's perspective. But I do also think as a fan base, I think we're much more receptive to these ideas because we see what the bigger picture is at this moment in time. And it's very different to when Ashley had his showcase. That was just a big piss take. And so I think that's the way it'll go, and I'm quite sure it'll be done right.
Yeah, I would agree with you 100% there. Al-Walid, we know that this is going to happen at some point. It's good, isn't it? It's good news. It's another way of bringing money in and helping Newcastle become a bigger force and a bigger club.
Of course, Steve, and if we have to choose between changing the stadium, make a new stadium, or changing the name, it's of course I will choose changing the name. And the change name itself, it will be all people will call it St James Park. It will not make a difference. It just maybe in the media and the television they will add the new name for sponsor matter. So I think this is a win-win situation, and it's good thing. And as Dr. Neil says, it's the way being done. It's consulting the fan. This is really appreciable by the club officials.
Steve, it's 100% positive in the chat as well. Lots of people saying it's great. Chris Collins says, I'm all for it this time. Totally different circumstances. It was like a cheap billboard for Mike Ashley. It's for the club, not the individual this time. Any idea what Arsenal get for their rights? So, I'd be interested to know what...
30 million, I think.
30 million. Well, if that's, the kind of income that it's going to bring, Steve, it's more power to their elbow. Let's get it done.
Well, that's got to be the number one objective is to get the revenue in, and that improves the FFP. So that's the ultimate requirement, and we cannot be sentimental for that. The various things we could be sentimental about that would stop that happening, and this is one of them. I don't think we actually, as fans, do we really call it St James's? We say we're going to the match or something like that. You don't refer to it as St James's Park. It's what it's seen from the outside world as St James's. So, obviously the metro station is still there. Will that still be called St James's? So the name still sticks around. So I think, as Andrew, I think on the chat said, and Al-Walid just said, if people are in this area will probably still call it St James's if they're going to refer to it. The name may change. Whoever it is this year might be a 3-year contract, a 5-year contract, and it might change in years ahead. You see some clubs doing that. So whatever the name comes, that for commercial reasons might not be there to stay. But underlying it all is the place that we know I think there'll be a lot more trouble with moving, which is another topic which we've talked about in the past and we'll no doubt talk about again. Moving somewhere different, it'll be a more difficult decision to make than what we call the current stadium.
Stu, we've had this conversation before on various shows, and you know, it's a necessity, really, isn't it, for Newcastle to, you know, to push ahead and become the force we know they can become.
Oh, absolutely. I think it's more dependent on who's doing it. Like the way Ashley did it, there was no consultation. It was cloak and dagger, and it was all for his self-serving purposes. There was never ever for the betterment of the club, and that was the problem. And the fact that he called it arena, you know, that gives it the Americanization tinge as well. You know, it is St. James Park, and it's a stadium, and we call it. I'm going to the ground. I'm going to the match, as Steve's just said there. You know, you don't say I'm off to St. James Park. You know, you say I'm going to the match or I'm up the ground now. So if you look at it, the fact that why they're doing it, and if they were to do it, and what could it generate? If it was called, for example, Aramco at St. James. We still call it St. James's. Still, you know, that's what it'd be referred to. But that would give us the rights. And if Arsenal are getting 30 million, why couldn't we get more? Because, again, living in the area, in the region, it can grow exponentially here with the fact of a successful Newcastle. That in this area can generate so much money in the MENA region, the Middle East and North Africa region. So they could actually do it more. But how about going a bit further, making it twofold? And again, as an example, Aramco at St. James, and then have the Saudi Airlines stand where the East Stand is. You know, because that's, as I know I've said before on many programs with you, Steve, but that's where the players run out. That's where the cameras are facing, and that reaches a global audience. So, you know, there's nothing written on there apart from Newcastle United. Why can't they just have like a sponsor on there? That would generate more money. And if those two brought in, for example, 50 million a year, that's like a world-class player coming in every year. And I think the fans would be more, well, my opinion is I believe the fans would be more, I'm not speaking on behalf of the whole fan base, obviously, would be more susceptible to the idea, because it's also two figures to the Premier League and the financial fair play rules that keep changing as well. And it creates a siege mentality, saying, okay, you try to stop us, we'll find a way. And it'll be a clean way, but we'll find a way. And they can't judge the potential of investment or advertising can generate in other parts of the world. And they can't then say, no, that's not fair because they're not doing that. Well, that's their short-sightedness and our foresight for actually doing it. And they can also, there's other ways around it where they can do it performance-linked as well. There's your set agreement. If you get to European places, we'll play that because we'll pay more. Champions League will pay more. If you win a trophy, we'll pay more. And it can all be legally done to bring more money into the club. And I'm absolutely certain there's companies that are based here in the Middle East or forged here in the Middle East that are globally recognised that would be lining up to sponsor Newcastle United funded by the PIF. So like I said, the money goes back into the club. Who can really get too sentimental about that? We want to compete, and this is a genuinely legal way of competing. And like I say, we know it's going to be called St. James anyway. So if it was called the Sports Direct Arena, quite right, no one's happy with it. If it was called something like Aramco at St. James and it brings in 40, 50 million quid, who could really complain? I don't know.
Great stuff, St. James's Aramco Park. I'm up for whatever it takes. I did like the other suggestion from Steve. He says, the KSA SJP. Imagine the uproar in the media. Yeah, let's do it. Just for the day. As always, I want you to ask George 5 minutes away from that. So get your questions in. There's quite a few, so I'm going to have to, as always, get through all of those. But we have one of these today. And And a big thank you to David Cook, one of our regular viewers. He said, my first 2 match as a 9-year-old was home to Wolves, April 1969. A very wet Monday night. We won 4-1. I sat on the Gallagher concrete barriers with my dad behind us to protect me from the surge. He says, that was me hooked. My dad wouldn't let me join him for Rangers game in the semi-final the following week. Wise decision. It was quite scary. Thank you, David, for that. And there's the programme on the left from the home game. And it's funny because George and I have been doing 1968-69 today. And it's a part 1 and a part 2, which will be on at the beginning of next month. And, of course, that was the infamous season when Newcastle United won the Fairs Cup. So look forward to that. And if you have your first game, you want to share it with anybody, you can either contact me on Twitter at Steve Wraith or send an email to nufcmatters.com. Okay, I think we've got enough of these. Let's start this section. Inundated, George. Inundated. Spenny Mag says, ask George, have you ever been mistaken for a celebrity or a famous journalist by anyone? Very specific,
Yes.
A famous journalist.
Well, that's very specific, but I've talked about the one. Niels knows what I'm going to say, I suspect. On an occasion when I went to an away match, we decided to go to Blackburn Rovers away match. And normally I drove the lads, but that particular year I had been in the Freeman for a very serious operation. I had prostate cancer. In fact, not to put too fine a point on it, but I nearly died of prostate cancer. And the lads wouldn't let us drive because they didn't think I'd been out of hospital long enough. So I decided to get the bus. And so we got on the bus. And I noticed there was something on the other week about poor Stevie Charlton. Well, to let us all sit together to hide poor Stevie Charlton off the bus at St. James's. It's the central station, which embarrassed us no end. I think Neil will remember that. Anyway, we went on the bus, and we the buses that we went on, their drinking hole on the way there was in Clitheroe in Lancashire, and just before you get to Blackburn, and they just took over the pub. I mean, the lads off the buses, the Geordies supporters off the buses, were even behind the bar serving, pulling pints. It was amazing, and we were just sitting quietly in the corner, and I was sitting quietly with me Coke, and somebody happened to say to one of the lads, who was that? And once the name Mitchell was heard, that was the end of that. We didn't get any more chances. Bloke jump up on the table and he shouts, "Hey, Bobby Mitchell's over here." Well, the pints came pouring in. Well, it was pointless trying to say no. So the lads got lots of free drinks because they were with Bobby Mitchell, and it was me. So I don't mind. Being mistaken for somebody with that sort of pedigree in football was a great thrill, but slightly an embarrassing one. So there you are. That was mistaken for Bobby Mitchell.
Okay, Steve Mowat says, ask George what is the worst injury that he has seen live at a football match, and what is his favourite, steak bake or a sausage roll from Greg's?
Steak bake is the easy one, and the worst injury I've seen, I think, was to somebody who played for Newcastle, an old friend of mine, George Dalton. George Dalton's injury was really, I mean, my own knee injury was bad enough, but George's was 5 times worse. And he played on for a little while, but it wasn't long before the transfer to Brighton. And George Dalton was heading for England as a fullback. That's how good he was. But the knee injury he got, his joint was totally displaced, and there was actually bits sticking out of the knee behind the kneecap. So yeah, that's as bad as I've ever seen. Absolutely shocking.
Okay, Mark says, ask George, off the topic of football, does he have a favourite film or TV series that was based in or around the Northeast?
Oh, there's an easy one for that one. That's Get Carter. I like Get Carter. I thought it was a good film, and lots of it, as you know, filmed all over the Northeast. And there was one bit of it I was interested in professionally. You know, the conveyor down on the coast at Merton. They were on concrete foundations, and they came to us at the university, the NCB, to say, could we do some experiments to work out what the impact of scouring around the bottom of the foundations were, where the sea was taking the sand away and the foundations were getting weak. And we had the job of making models in the tank where I was in charge and giving them the information. So that had a personal side as well as a enjoyment side.
Okay, Vince says, ask George, we were talking about shin pads on Friday night. Can I ask, were they any good or just a confidence booster?
No, they were very important and still are. I mean, I haven't seen a modern one for a while. They were good. They were made very crudely in my days. I mean, it was just a split cane put on something firm and glued and a top put on over the top. But they were very important. I've seen some people get their legs torn to pieces because they didn't wear shin pads even on a Sunday, never mind in a professional sense. But no, very important. They were not just a confidence booster. They were a confidence booster in the sense that you felt a bit safer, but without them, you're really risking your life.
Dave Smart says, question for George, can you remember as a fan being able to pay a transfer fee, 1 shilling, say, to move around the ground? Steve Wilkinson's nodding his head.
Yeah, me too. Yeah. You could go to a gate at the top of the Gallagher corner to transfer into the behind the Gallagher goal.
Right,
or you could go to the far end of the Lasers terrace and go to a gate there and pay to go into the Lasers end.
Interesting. Okay, Tom Dixon
just add to that, it was one of the reasons it was covered in the Lasers. That was the only area that was covered, so it was paying down the rain. It was definitely worth the shilling to go and try and shelter in the Lasers end.
Good point. Good point. What was the quickest hat trick that you have seen scored by a player, says Tom?
Quickest hat trick I've seen. Oh, it's got to be Supermax against Liverpool in his debut match, hasn't it? I think that was as quick as I've ever seen. Personally, if the one that I've actually been present, yeah.
All right, I'm going to ask you this one, and then we'll go around the board. Mr. Anderson says, "Hi George, would you start ASM on Sunday?"
Yes, straightforward. Yes, if you're ever going to make anything of this lad, he's got to be doing it on the pitch, not sitting on his backside on the touchline. As long as he's fully fit, yes, he's got to have a start. He's a threat. I mean, even the little bit of time he had on at the weekend against Brentford, every time he moved, you could see the Brentford defenders were wetting themselves once he got up to speed. He was leaving them in a trail behind him. So, yeah, if you're going to make any use of this lad, you've got to make use of his talents on the pitch, not sitting on the bench.
John, just as Alan from QTech said, it was taking it a bit far when your phone rang. People calling George at home to get their questions in. So please do not ring George when he's doing the show to get your questions, and you've got to send them in like everybody else. Mitch,
well, as I heard Neil say, as long as it's not Lloyd's Bank.
Exactly, aye. Mitch, ASM, Manchester United away. Is it time to unleash our Maverick again, or did you like the fact that we had a little bit of strength and depth and we could take Bruno off and put ASM? What would you say?
2 sides to this. One, would it be harsh on Murphy to drop him after the performance he put in against Brentford and getting a goal? But we've got a chance to have a proper go at Man United in their own backyard, and we'll only do that with our best 11 on the pitch. So if he's fully fit and if there's no risk of injury, yes, I think I'd roll the dice and take the chance.
Okay. Your views, Al Walid?
It's depend how the way you start, and if I know Eddie Howe, he will start attacking from beginning. So yes, Saint Maximin should be in start.
Steve?
Yeah, like I'm agreeing with Mitch that it's very hard on Murphy after the games he's played and scoring as well. But I think ASM had a stormer against Man City, and because he was definitely up for it, and I think in his little cameo that he came on what 15 minutes last week, it was a superb pass he gave, and I think it was discussed on one of the shows the other night. I forget which one it was that you were talking, Steve, but about the fact that they're getting him to play with his head up and look for a pass. And that pass he gave to Joe Linton for the last goal was something that wouldn't have happened in the past. He would have been head down and run forward with the ball. So I think he's fired up for it, and this is the perfect game to make a mark. And so I would probably say yes.
So clean sweep at the moment, Stu. Are you going to start him?
No. I'll just shave my head to get my tin hat fitting on better. But no, I think if ASM was more match fit, then absolutely he should start, and we should go there with our strongest 11, and he's in our strongest 11. But if we see how Eddie Howe does it, he nurses players back in, and I think I wouldn't be surprised if he goes unchanged, but gives the substitutes more play time, like bring them on after an hour. Because ASM's a game changer, and also normally when you play teams away, especially the teams in the top end of the table, you know the old saying is you've got the 20 minutes, the first 20 minutes you've got to survive, and you've got Murphy on one wing and Almira on the other. They're prepared to do the donkey work and track back and make it more compact, etc. And if we can weather that storm, even take the lead, which I'm confident we will. And then ASM's a game changer. Bringing him off the bench with 30 minutes to go can make a huge difference. Bringing Murphy off the bench with 30 minutes to go, it's different. So, and the fact that if Murphy's done his role to perfection and he's run as much as he could for that hour, if ASM bursting at the seams with a point to prove coming on, I think that could actually help us win the game more than starting them and risking an injury. And risking being exposed down the left. That's just my personal opinion. But if he was fully fit, I'd absolutely start him. But you see how he did it with Bruno as well. He brings them in slowly, just to be on the safe side.
Okay, Spenny's question there, George. He says, as some of you know, I got in a Twitter debate this week classing Bruno as a good player, not the best we had in midfield. Do you agree or disagree? It's interesting. There's a lot of debate going around. We had Ross Gregory and Ben Jacobs on the show at the start of the week. Ross, of course, at the Evening Chronicle has an ongoing poll to vote for the greatest midfielder that we've ever had play for Newcastle United. And he's included Bruno in the list. So Spenny's question there is, he's classed Bruno as a good player, but not the best. Would you agree with Spenny, or would you disagree with Spenny as the best midfielder that we have, I guess, at the moment?
At the moment, he's the best, but he's rapidly developing into the best ever. I've never seen anybody who is so keen to take the ball. I mean, there was times against Brentford when Brentford committed suicide. They give him so much space, and that's how he got his second goal. But other times in the game, some of the defenders were stuck with the ball and they weren't sure where to go. And out of a bunch of Brentford players, sometimes 3, 4. In fact, on one occasion, I think there was about 5. Bruno was in the middle of them. He still wanted to receive the ball and take it away. And with 2 shimmies of his backside and his shoulders, he was in the clear. So, no, I think if he carries on this season the way he's going, he'll rapidly become the best we've ever had. He's added goals to his game now to make it even more so. So, yeah, I mean, in all the years I've been going, he takes some beating. Yeah, somebody's going to ask a question about centre halves next, but never mind.
You're preempting what the chat's going to say. That's dangerous.
Yeah. Well, at the moment, I really find Botman such an intelligent footballer and defender. And when he comes out of defence with the ball, Botman can drop his shoulder and send players in every direction. a sort of thing that most attacking players would love to be able to do, and he just does it naturally, and I just find that absolutely fantastic. So yeah, Bruno's the best at the moment. Yeah,
Best at the moment, Mitch. Best ever. I think it's a bit too early for that crack.
Bit too early. If he does this for the next 2 or 3 years and we'll have to do trophies, could start to get into that.
Yeah.
We touched on this on Sunday, didn't we, on the professionals, and the one that was being most sort of compared to was Rob Lee. Now, you got to remember, we got Rob Lee effectively as a winger. And then he was developed into a central midfielder, box-to-box, England international. And he developed under Keegan and developed in the system. What we've got in Bruno is a far more complete player than when Rob Lee arrived. So the potential for him to develop is scary. We put the right players around him and make him part of the future of this club and get him getting our team firing all cylinders with better quality around it and increasing better quality around them. We could have this debate maybe in another 2 or 3 years' time with some silverware in the cabinet. Then it's a different conversation. Very different conversation. Right now, we're lucky to have him. We're graced with a genuine, and I don't say this lightly, world-class footballer at Newcastle United. And that's enough for me right now.
Yeah, certainly is world class, Al Walid. You know, watched him from afar, and he could be the best, but I think it's a little bit early to say that he's the best midfielder we've ever had.
He can be. I wish if there is a game like knockout stage and those like finals, semi-finals with big team, with Big Six. I went to see him against Big Six and score against them. So this is still early, but he can be.
Yeah, definitely agree with you there. I think, you know, he carries on in the next couple of years in the same kind of vein, and be great if we win something. It would be hard to deny him that title. Steve, you've seen some great midfielders, as have I, and yeah, look, Bruno's got a touch of class about him. We can all see it, but I guess maintaining the consistency and, you know, maintaining that level is key to becoming a great at Newcastle United.
Yeah, I think the thing about Bruno that I've seen so far is he's got all the components. When you're looking at all the other midfield players, you went through a big list with Ben and Ross yesterday, and I'm sure Supermac will add Terry Hibbett to that list tomorrow night's show. He's got the ability to tackle. The goal he scored on Saturday, the second one, it was right in front of me, and he came in. I think Murphy was the first one challenging with the guy. Murphy might have lost that ball. Bruno comes in and tackles, and it's the same sort of tackle he's done loads, and he always comes out standing up with the ball at his feet, and then he shoots off at great pace into space. He just ran into space perfectly, and then fires in a fantastic goal. Sort of all three components there of what you're wanting from a midfield: tackling midfield, running with the ball at pace, and then firing in a goal like that. So I think you wrap all those things together, and he's the complete player of whether it's a defensive, which I think we always thought that he was when he first came in. He was supposed to be defensive midfield. He scored 8, 9 goals now. You know, it's probably the top scorer in the time he's been here, with Wilson being out most of the time. So he's certainly you know, stay fit is the key. You know, George will remember when with Tony Green was destined to be the great.
Yeah.
So very quickly, his career was cut short with an injury, and that's the one thing we need Bruno to do is stay fit, and the sky's the limit.
Yeah, not a fan of comparing players from different generations. So much has changed. Brian, I fully agree with that. It is difficult. It's like trying to compare fighters, you know, comparing Marciano to Tyson. It's different eras, different gloves, different length of rounds. So, yeah, and with football, different types of footballs, different types of boots, you know, different you know, speeds of players, pitches, another good point. So it is very difficult to compare. Jasmine says people don't understand the difference between a wound and an injury. A wound is damage to tissue caused by a cut, blow, or other impact, where skin is broken, whereas injury played with the blockheads. Very good. And she's also got this one in, saying she met Steve Bruce at the grocery store. He wouldn't stop talking about cabbages and lettuces. And I said the vegetables was not necessarily what I wanted to talk about.
Oh, DFB.
Jasmine,
Blame Mitch for that, I think. Starting all
don't give up the day
Blame
job.
me, Jesus.
all this Formula One stuff. You got everybody going on that.
Ian, we haven't heard anything more about that. The rumor is still a rumor. I did bump into Ben Johnson actually at the weekend, and yeah, look, I mean, it was there for all to see. A bit of paperwork on the internet. We've seen it millions of times before, but nothing official yet, mate. So can't really discuss that until we see something a little bit more concrete. Vince, I haven't seen this either. He says, have you seen that they're talking about releasing the blackout on 3 p.m. kickoffs from 24-25 season? I've been too busy reporting.
That's
Football League.
just for Football League, not the Premier League, Steve.
Ah, right. Okay. Well, there you go. So, no, I hadn't seen it. I've been too busy with George today, recording those were the days. So, no, I haven't seen any news. Mag Debates does say Steve Bruce removal man is now in the Forbes rich list. Fantastic. And Stu, yeah, I did see this. The Daft Mac and Darren Bent compared Bruno with Ben Arthur. What a loon! Yeah, you're not wrong there, mate. To be perfectly honest. Yeah. So let's talk centre halves, George. You mentioned Botman. He's been superb, hasn't he? But you know,
you know what it asked me about Bruno.
Oh yeah, sorry, Stu. Yeah, I got carried away with Jasmine's jokes, and I've completely forgot about you, about Bruno. Go on then.
Sit your own patient. Don't want to tell you now. No,
I'll go and sit on an only step.
To the question regarding ASM, no, he's not the best. But on Sunday, we go to Old Trafford for the first time in a generation with a genuine chance of winning. And Bruno will be pivotal to that. And he has it all. You know, the passing, the shooting, the dribbling, the awareness, the vision, the tackling. He does have it all. But I said it on Sunday on the professionals that to me, Gazza's the best midfielder we have. And Bruno's, he's up there. He's second. And the key word I used was longevity when people were talking about speed and Rob Lee and stuff like that. But Gaza has played more games for Newcastle than what Bruno has so far. So and remember, he was just a Bairn as well, and he carried a team, an average team. He carried that team on his shoulders many times, and Bruno's got better players around him. You know, so. If Bruno's still performing the way he is in 3 or 4 years' time, and you've seen him do his little dance on the pitch with the trophy at Wembley, then he'd be a genuine contender to be the best midfielder we've ever had. If we're not counting Beardsley as a midfielder, that is.
Okay, looking at the Manchester United game, Stu. We'll start with you. The team was unchanged last weekend. I didn't think it would be. I thought he would make changes. Is he going to change things this weekend? Is he going to maybe drop one of the centre halves to bring in Target? Is he going to drop Murphy to bring in ESM? You know, what do you think there'll be changes?
It's now becoming more difficult to predict or second guess Eddie Howe's team selection, isn't it? And I think that's the way he wants it. But my inclination is I wouldn't be surprised if he went unchanged initially. Target maybe for Bruno because of this pace of this Anthony on the wing. Maybe it's not for Bruno, sorry, for Dan Burn. That could be a potential change. And I think that's also a reason why Murphy would start for him to track back and help double up initially until we've took the window of the sales and then we could unleash ASM. So I honestly think he could go unchanged.
Okay, Steve Wilkinson.
Yeah, I don't think there'll be as many changes as there potentially could be because he could bring ASM and he could bring Joe Linton and he could bring Target back, and I don't think that there'll be 3 changes. You know, so I wouldn't be surprised if it might only change 1, and I think it might just be at fullback Dan Burn and maybe start with Murphy. I think Stu made a good point about ASM having an impact on coming on maybe 60 minutes instead of the 75. And transform the second half. He did that. Was it game at Burnley a couple of years ago where we were losing 1-0 at half time, and he just transformed the second half. And you know, they wouldn't know how to play him. So I think there might only be 1 change, but it's been difficult this season. I don't think I've ever got the team right from what I expected it to be. No, I didn't expect it to be unchanged on Saturday because that's the first time he's done it, and we all expected there to be a change.
Al-Walid?
Eddie Howe now reach he have and you can see that he improve the team, and he's not panicking when he loses one or two of the player. He can mix them in a good way and style of play. He know them now much better than before. So I'm not really worried about center half or any of his pickup. Of course, we were about the injuries, and glad that the injuries is not is very limited now. So I think no, even there is a change, the team can cope with that, no problem.
Interesting though, because I mean we're going to Manchester United. They've come off the back of a good result, Mitch. We've come off the back of 2 good results. So it is one of those dilemmas, isn't it? I mean, I saw photographs of training today. It didn't look like Isaac had trained, so maybe it's going to be too early for him. But we're almost at full strength. Probably just missing him and John Joe Shelby, and of course the long-term injury as well. To our goalkeeper, but is he gonna flip the coin this weekend, or is he gonna keep it 3 games in a row?
Yeah, like the lads have said, you can't really second guess what he's going to do. In some respects, I think it would be harsh to drop anybody on the back of the 2 results we've had. But I get the feeling Eddie Howe has a game plan for each game, and it's horses for courses, and he may make some changes, particularly in the full-back area. And then the next question is, does he roll the dice with the SM or not? I suspect he won't. I suspect he'll start with Murphy and then use the SM for impact. So let's see. I'm comfortable. For the first time in years, I'm reasonably comfortable with whatever he does. It's quite odd. I'd never really look at the team sheet and go like I have done at some stages in the past when somebody mixes it up. So I'm happy to back any decision he wants to make. He doesn't seem to be wanting to make changes for change's sake, but he might have a particular side in mind for this Man United side. Let's see.
Clint says he thinks we'll keep the same side. George, is that your feeling too?
No, I think Neil just said it. He's a great one for horses for courses. If he sees an opportunity to mix things up to upset Manchester United, he'll take it. And I think Matt Targett will definitely be in, and there could be other changes as well. But I'm happy to go with what Eddie Howe does at the moment. And as Neil says, it's a long time since I've felt relaxed about saying something like that with any of our managers, but particularly with Eddie Howe. He usually has a game plan, and that's great. You know, I can live with that.
Okay, Mitch always rolls the dice on Friday night. So we'll come to you, George, first for your prediction for Sunday. How do you see it going?
2-0. 2-0 to us.
2-0 to Newcastle. Okay, Al-Walid?
Well, I expect a draw.
You expect a draw? Okay. Steve?
2-1 to us. I think we can sneak it.
Okay, and Stu?
I think we'll win 2-0 as well, same as George.
Interesting. Great stuff. Well, I'll make my prediction tomorrow night with Super Mac and Gibbo. I'm back tomorrow at the slightly earlier time of 5:45. So make sure you set your reminder. If you haven't already subscribed, click the subscribe button because that way you get notified of all the shows. Make sure you select all for those notifications. And I'm back tonight at 7:15. And for those of you who have missed it, the News of the World show is back.
I said we're gonna fall out. Let's see you get out. I think we're gonna fall out. So shut your mouth. You know I said we're gonna fall out. Let's see you get out. I think we're gonna fall out. Shut your mouth. Shut your mouth. Shut your mouth.
Yep, News of the World show is back, and there is Mitch doing his best. Lee is joining us again. He's in the chat there tonight. Anne is back, and we've got a new presenter on as well. Looking forward to that. 7:15, a bit of a satirical look at the news and views around the world. And as I say, I'm back 5:45 as well tomorrow night with Super Mac and Gibbo. But as always, thanks to George, thanks to Mitch, thanks to Al Walid, thanks to Steve, and thanks to Stu. I will see you again soon, guys. Take care.
Good night,
everybody.
lads.
Cheers, everyone.
Thank you.
A big thanks to our sponsors, Skips and Bins, telephone 0800 25 45 25 3, email inquiries at skipsandbins.com, website skipsandbins.com, easy contract free and pay as you go waste collection. Thanks to Darren Baldwin Funerals, based on Old Durham Road in Gateshead. Their phone number is 0191 478 2730. You can email Darren at darrenbaldwinfunerals.co.uk or go to the website darrenbaldwinfunerals.co.uk. Thanks to Garden of Healing Dispensary, CBD, hemp and cannabinoid specialists based on Nunn Street. The GOHD.com is their website. And thanks again to 3 Property Investments, who specialise in sourcing investment properties for their clients who are looking to invest in the North East. They offer a full in-house service from sourcing the deals to managing the properties for you. They've done over 100 plus deals in the past 12 months for clients all over the UK. Give them a follow on Instagram, matty.patter_northeast property and phil.reed_northeast property, or email phil@3property.co.uk if you're interested in getting a good property deal. Thanks to the lads at Mr. Vicky's Handmade in Cumbria. These are hot sauces, and you can find them at mrvickies.co.uk or place an order by ringing 01768 210 102. Thanks also to the lads at Blowhole Brewery, a fine amount of ales available from their website, www.blowholebrewery.co.uk. Thanks to Media Arts for all the help with the video technology. Thanks to qtechshop.co.uk, the makers of pool tables and snooker tables in Wallsend, Newcastle, and the guys who run our website, NUFCmatters.com. If you want to subscribe, hit the badge in the corner, and you can subscribe for free. Still do 7 shows a week. Hit the thumb up to like the video and click share to share to your social media. We're also available as a podcast on iTunes, Spotify, and the rest. And if you want to become a member, click join underneath this video, or you can put your smartphone over the QR code. It will take you to the membership section of the website. If you choose to go that way, then you will get a pen, a cup, a scarf and a membership card, and entry into the monthly draw for a one-off payment of £25. We also give you something for free. If you want a car window sticker, email john@nufcmatters.com and he will send you one if you are a subscriber. We also help the food bank on here. NUFC fans, foodbank.co.uk is the match day bucket. If you go there, you can make a virtual donation at any time of the year. And don't forget, Peter Beardsley Soccer School, October half term, Monday the 24th to Friday the 28th of October. You can book now, peterbeardsley.soccerschool.com. Peter's also running Monday night training on the 26th of October. Again, the same website. And if you want to meet Peter Beardsley, well, you've got 3 chances. Newcastle Legends game, Friday, October the 14th. The Peter Beardsley talk-in is taking place after the game. Tickets for this are available from NUFCmatters.com. Adult admission is £5, junior admission is £2. The talk-in is adults only, and that is a tenner. And the events are all taking place at the Fox Hunters Pavilion in North Shields. We've got Peter Beardsley available, tickets available for the St Dom's Catholic Club show. You need to go straight to their website and you just buy your tickets there. And for this one at the Irish Centre, tickets are available now on NUFCmatters.com. Don't forget, Supermax at the Dog and Parrot, every pre-match and every post-match, every home game. And John Gibson and John Anderson are at Pumphrey's pre-match only. If you did like our true crime stuff, it has all migrated to the True Crime channel. So get yourself across there on YouTube and subscribe today.